More groups have been joining a legal challenge to the cancellation of late-night weekend service on the MBTA. According to a complaint filed with the federal government, the loss of that service disproportionately affects people of color and low income. To talk about the challenge, our guests from two of the groups involved, the staff attorney for MASSPIRG, Kirstie Pecci, and the program director for the Alliance for Business Leadership, Sebastian Zapata. Thank you both very much for being with us.
Thank you, Chris.
Thanks for having us, Chris.
First of all, I want to start with Sebastian. What about this central idea in the complaint that it's people of color and low-income people who are hurt by this the most?
Yeah, absolutely. So at the Alliance for Business Leadership, we're very much focused on the fact that social responsibility goes hand in hand with economic growth. And the fact that late night service was cut is a clear-cut example of something that can be done to mitigate economic growth here in Massachusetts. So according to a T study conducted in 2015, their data found that over 50% of the riders who actually take late night service are minorities and 60% are low-income riders. So again, if you're talking about expanding access to opportunity for everybody, this is a clear-cut example of something that we can be doing to help that.
Put that in a little more context here. Where were these people going or coming from when they're riding that service?
Yeah, so a lot of these workers are late night shift or they're taking it to go to school. A 2013 study that the MBTA did that was comprised of over 26,000 respondents found that a third of them actually take it to go to work or to go to school. So again, we're talking about late night shift workers, the people that are cleaning up after everyone's gone, the ones that are coming in late at night or early in the morning to get an education and just improve themselves and help move our economy forward here in Mass.
Kirstie, the other thing you're up against, I guess the thing that making the T cancel this ride is that they said it's not paying for itself, or at least not coming close enough to doing that.
Well, you know, MASSPIRG has been a proponent of late night service for decades. This is something that, you know, we share ABL's concern that this is something that drives our economy and gives folks access to opportunity. We understand that perhaps this iteration of late night service was not the most efficient or the best way to do this. However, that doesn't mean that you cut the service without mitigating that impact on low income and minority people who are dependent on the service. Here, the MassDOT hadn't set clear goals as to what would be a success. It was a pilot, and they hadn't set clear goals. They canceled the service without doing that required Title VI analysis. The FTA then said in March they had to do this analysis, and then when they did the analysis, they did it incorrectly. They didn't analyze the data properly. They didn't look at the populations that lived near within a quarter mile of bus stops and within a half mile of subway stations, and figure out whether this cancellation would have a disparate impact on minority and low-income populations. Instead, they looked at the entirety of the municipality. So there are a series of problems here. There was the late night service we had the answer? Maybe not. But what we're asking now is for MassDOT to complete this analysis properly, and in the interim find a service that perhaps it would be more cost effective, a service that would mitigate this problem so that people who need to get to third shift jobs, who are coming back from a late night at the library, young professionals who are working late can get home safely, as well as other people who are just out in a town. We want Boston to have a vibrant social life. We want all those businesses that rely on that to have the support of being able to get public transportation.
We're talking with Kirstie Pecci from MASSPIRG and Sebastian Zapata from the Alliance for Business Leadership. Sebastian, when this service was revived under the former Governor Deval Patrick, one of the ground rules here is that we're going to need some support for this from the business sector, not just the T fares and the tax base here. And you know, the business didn't really do much to step up to the plate, if I recall.
Yeah, so I can't speak too much as to what happened.
I'm not criticizing your group per se. Yeah.
No, of course not. Yeah. But I think it's very interesting because at the Alliance, a lot of our members, they do wide-ranging work, whether it be in healthcare industry, whether it be an organization that deals with rebuilding models to repurpose quilts from old t-shirts. Again, just a very wide-ranging net that we cast, but they're all focused on improving Massachusetts, and they all understand the importance when it comes to public transportation, because nothing is going to worsen our economy quicker than a crumbling infrastructure or a transportation system that's not reliable or affordable to get workers on time to work.
Well, I know we see the service is important to service workers. We see it as important to people enjoying the nightlife in the city. But Sebastian, what about other businesses that need this service to either continue or even to grow?
Yeah, absolutely. So for them, it's extremely vital because if you want to talk about retaining and recruiting talent, transportation is a huge mode that a lot of folks are looking towards. If you look at trends right now, cities are becoming extremely populated. Folks are moving back into it. They're wanting less and less cars. Less people have licenses for this specific reason, is that they want to be able to move about freely in a reliable and affordable transportation system that's going to get them to work on time. So for these businesses, it's extremely vital as well.
Kirstie, what would you like to see the T do at this point? I mean, short of instantly, going back to the way things were.
Mm-hmm. Well, there are proposals on the table. MBTA has been reviewing various proposals and actually put together different ideas for mitigating this loss of late night service, but it hasn't been done yet. And there are also different groups like Transit Matters and others that have put forward ideas for cost-effective methods for providing late night service. It's complicated. Providing service is always complicated, but it's doable, and we need to make sure that our most vulnerable populations, minority and low-income workers, have the transportation services they need.
Talk about the groups that have joined this chain, because there were 3 groups that originally filed the complaint, and right. Just quite a range of people have joined in since then.
Right. So there are 3 groups that actually filed the complaint: the Conservation Law Foundation, Alternatives for Community and Environment, and Greater Four Corners. And the Greater Four Corners Action Coalition, ACE, as Alternatives for Community and Environment is called, and CLF, are all the ones who are actually on the complaint. Then there are these 15 groups that are endorsing this effort. They're not part of the suit, but what these 15 groups are saying is this is important and we care about this. And as you said, it's a large range of viewpoints. There's the Alliance for Business Leadership, a coalition of progressive-minded CEOs. There are environmental nonprofits like the Sierra Club, MASSPIRG, Environmental League of Massachusetts, 350 Massachusetts. There's a coalition of health advocates, the Massachusetts Public Health Association. There are champions for economic justice like NAACP, Neighbor to Neighbor, and the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights and Economic Justice, Haley House, and then LISC, Local Initiatives Local Initiative Support Coalition in Boston. And then there are also some other folks who are really just focused on transportation equity. Walk Boston, Somerville Equity Partnership, US Berg, and then we have labor too involved. So we really have run the gamut. Fight for $15 is here too. So 15 different groups who have very different focuses, but all acknowledge that transportation and access to transportation is key to Boston's success.
Sebastian, I guess another thing to contend with here, a lot of the people hurt most by this, they're under the crunch in the housing market too. So what does that mean for transportation?
So I think moving forward, you have to just look very closely in terms of transit-oriented developments and see how do we focus on maximizing the proximity that we have for housing and transportation locations. Potentially, do we want to look at value capture systems moving forward to help sort of mitigate the costs that come with building as much as it is now? But either way, it's all about creating these opportunities where densely populated areas have ability to get affordable transit so they can get to school, to work, to their health appointment, wherever it may be, because it's not just about moving folks from point A to B, it's really about the importance behind it.
Thank you both very much. Sebastian Zapata from the Alliance for Business Leadership and Kirstie Pecci from MASSPIRG.